It is the 8th time. I think I saw 7 out of the last 10 years, I believe, and the 8th time overall. So congrats to the staff, Darryl Arata, Michael Ravina, Cole Lawrence, Brett Winkler, and Ray Ridder. Anything you want to say, Vice President of the PBWA?
Appreciate you all. The dynasty continues. You understand our jobs. You help us do our jobs. We had to change the rules so the Warriors couldn't win every single year. That's kind of all you need to know. So they're back. I should mention, too, the T-Wolves won last year. We appreciate them. But congrats, guys. Amazing work.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
There you go, Darryl.
All right, you're on your own.
Steve, your comment.
Hey, Raymond, you're still no Tom James, so.
What does playoff Raymond mean to you?
Random stats that don't really help me at all in these interviews. I texted Raymond this afternoon to congratulate him and his staff, and then he sent something nice back, and then I told him, all right, let's erase these texts and get back to our more comfortable dynamic where we just insult each other all the time. So it was a short-lived celebration, but well-deserved. They do an amazing job.
What are some of the keys to slowing down Randall, and what makes him such a tough matchup?
Well, he's a great player. He's physical. He's strong but skilled. Double-figure assists the last 2 games. So it's not it's not a case of stopping him. It's stopping them. And I all in all, I mean, we held him to 102 the other night. So I think we did a decent job defensively, but in the fourth quarter, he and Ant kind of took over. So we've got to figure out a way to slow them down, especially late.
Steve, one of the inherent advantages you guys have when you're whole is the closing lineup and options that you have you can put on the floor. Without Steph and without Draymond in the last game, as it turned out, how does that affect your philosophy on who's out there in a tight game in the final minutes, and how much more difficult does it make your job in terms of planning how you're going to close games?
Well, it means we're probably going to go with whatever lineup has the hot hand, like we did the other night with JK playing so well. But that's par for the course. If you have injuries, you have to adapt, and so we'll adapt. Obviously, we'll play through Jimmy, and key tonight is again our defense. Can we defend at a high level? Can we score off our defense? Can we get to loose balls, long rebounds, win the possession game? Those are the things we have to do without Steph.
Last game, you only had 5 3-point attempts in the first half. I was wondering, how important is it to, I guess, increase three-point volume, but also how do you do that without just forcing up shots that maybe you guys don't want to take?
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, to go back to our defense and rebounding. You can get them off offensive boards, so, crashing, second chance opportunities, forcing turnovers, getting out in transition and hitting threes that way. Very difficult to do in the half court. Without Steph, and with frankly, with a rotation that doesn't feature a ton of three-point shooting. So we have to generate those looks through our defense and rebounding.
And you and some of the players have talked about playing with pace. Does that just mean getting out in the open court, or does that mean maybe getting your actions a little bit quicker in the half court? What does playing with pace mean to you?
It's throwing the ball ahead. I thought we had 5 or 6 possessions the other night where we didn't throw the ball ahead when someone was open. And that's a really important part of the game. When you throw the ball ahead, it threatens the defense, it flattens the defense out, and then there's plays to be made behind the play.
Steve, it felt like you came up with a blueprint in Game 3, at least some tactics to stay in the game. Guys got tired down the stretch, but what did you learn from Game 3 that you can carry over into Game 4?
Well, I mean, it's always a series-long process of learning, and so I don't look at it so much as game 3 as I do, all 3 of the first games. So we've seen some things defensively that we like. We've seen what they're doing defensively, and you take every bit of film and you dissect it, and you try to figure out, what can we do to improve our chances of winning. So, the things we've talked about, the pace, the offensive rebounding, forcing some turnovers, those are all things that we've kind of gleaned from the first 3 games.
To kind of follow up on that, when you talk about ways of winning, have you had any sidebar conversations with any of the guys, maybe Podziemski or Moses Moody or Buddy Hield, that have not necessarily been in these situations, but you're like, you're doing this, we need you to do this one thing, because this will make you more of a contributor in this game, and we need that because Steph is not out there?
That's my job. So, yes, I have conversations with our players all the time. And we collaborate as a group. We watch tape with the whole team, and our older guys will chip in with thoughts for our younger guys. So that's really the process that we go through for sure.
I guess specifically I'm asking if you've had those conversations with and who you have.
Yes, and I'm going to specifically say I'm not going to answer that.
Steve, what do you appreciate about Jimmy's leadership style? I asked him after game 3, the loss, about the urgency in tonight's game, but he basically said he had kind of as a calming force, like, we can't change too much of what we do. We don't want to make it bigger than it is. What do you appreciate about the way he kind of leads?
Just his calm under pressure, his comfort level in being the guy and taking on the responsibility. And it's genuine behind the scenes. It's authentic while it's happening. He's a true clutch performer, just unafraid of the moment and willing to take on the responsibility that comes with that. So he's been amazing.
Since over here, since getting Jimmy, especially, you guys have been really good at generating points off turnovers. In the last game, it didn't happen as much, and I know they weren't all live ball turnovers. You had 7 turnovers and no points off them in the fourth quarter. What do you think that is? Is it what you were saying before about not passing ahead, or what was it?
Well, I think we can be more efficient for sure in creating advantages by throwing the ball ahead. There were several dead ball turnovers where they threw the ball out of bounds, so we're still setting up against their set defense. So, we have to continue to push the pace, push the tempo, especially when we have advantages, whether it's a turnover or a guy is down, comes into the paint and shoots and falls down, and it's a 5-on-4. We have to take advantage of that in this series for sure.
To state the obvious, Steve, a 2-2 series is different than a 3-1 series. And I know you're not one to make speeches for your guys. They have the plan. It's on them to execute. But still, coming to the arena today, what's your emotional read on where your team's at?
Team's in a great state. We understand the circumstances, and we feel good about the matchup. We feel good about our ability to guard Minnesota, and we felt like we had some game plan mistakes last game. I thought our guys played really, really hard, but we had some game plan discipline issues, and if we clean those things up, then we feel great about our chances to win tonight, and we're looking at this as a great opportunity.
What were the keys on the defensive glass tonight?
The keys?
Yeah, on the defensive glass.
We lost our shell the other night. You talk about a defensive shell where, you got 5 guys who are kind of connected. There were a lot of shots that they took where we leaked out, and the shell doesn't end until the possession ends, until we get the rebound. And we had way too many possessions the other night where we leaked out and kind of lost our foothold, at the elbows where a lot of those long rebounds go. So we got to clean that up for sure.
Steve, down the stretch of the night, Draymond had fouled out. Obviously, you didn't have him out there. But what did you miss about him not being out there in those last few minutes of the game? What might have changed for you?
Well, he's been there a million times, and he's the best defender in the league. And you're trying to get stops in the last 4 minutes of the game, and Draymond Green's not out there. You miss all of that. So hopefully he's there the last 4 tonight.
He's had some high impact games in this postseason and some low impact games. What do you need from him in this particular game tonight? Besides staying
I just
on the
think
floor?
I thought he was in a little bit of a rush the other night. He had the 5 turnovers. I thought we were a little careless with the ball in the first half. We have to set a better tone, and Draymond can help us do that. He's our leader. He's going to handle the ball quite a bit, with Steph out. And I've seen Draymond bounce back from tough games a million times. I have no doubt he's going to do that. So he's just got to be the guy who has won a lot of championships and won a lot of playoff games. And I'm sure he's going to be that guy tonight. Thank you.
Chris, what do you want to do differently with Kuminga today, and just in terms of making it more difficult for him or problems he presents, I guess?
Yeah, I think we got to be a little bit more physical. I think he was dictating physicality on his matchup offensively. We gotta try to stand up his drives a little bit earlier. And then I think also we knew. I mean, he played well against us in game 2. We knew he was going to continue to be or feature in this series, but we gotta kind of shut his water off a little bit earlier. He got going too much.
Chris, as you kind of evaluate maybe the turnovers in this series where they've come from you guys, how much of these are maybe preventable or maybe turnovers that their action and their defense are causing?
Yeah, we turned it over at a pretty high level last game. I was surprised that we were able to survive that, to be honest with you. A lot of the turnovers I thought last game were, their handsiness, us not having great spacing. So those are certainly preventable. I think understanding their defense has morphed a little bit through the series, but they've always done a good job. They led the league in generating turnovers since Butler got here. So it's what they do, and we've got to be able to avoid that. So I do feel like a lot of them are preventable, but just with how aggressive they are, they are going to turn you over at some point. So.
Chris, your offensive rebounding has been a strength for your team, especially in these playoffs. Has it been even a bigger factor given their seemingly sense of urgency to throw ahead and push as much as possible?
Yes, yeah, no doubt. We have to try to keep them out of transition all the ways that you can do that. The first and foremost is scoring, and secondly is being big in and around the basket. They're switching a lot of stuff, so it might give us a size advantage at times, and we've got to try to capitalize on that. And it's something that we've made a big point of emphasis mid-season, and guys have been committed to it. So.
You just mentioned you felt like their defense is morphing throughout the series. How, I guess how would you say?
Yeah, I mean they, obviously they're pretty determined in specific ways that they want to guard Anthony. They do a great job of swarming you deep in the paint. I thought they did had a more, deliberate mindset to kind of swarm you up the floor and not allow us to get to the paint as much. Of course, heavy switching at times, going between switching and coverage, the zone, so they're giving us a lot of different things to think about. So.
Chris, especially when Julius and Mike were off the floor, it looked like you guys struggled with ball pressure immediately once you crossed half court and couldn't get into some early offense. Is that something that you feel like you really need to clean up coming into this game, and how do you think you might go about doing it?
Yeah, we didn't like our top of the floor spacing. I thought we were, kind of in each other's way out there, and we need to clean up that open floor spacing, just because if they're going to put that much pressure on the ball, then we got to be able to go by it. So.
Because Jaden is so versatile a defender, how does he handle being able to go anywhere when you don't have that one thing to focus on with Steph Curry? Like, how are you employing his versatility?
Well, it's the beauty of him is you can put him literally anywhere. You put him as a switchable defender. You can put him as an on-ball guy. You can put him in coverage and pick and roll, and we've done it all with him. and we'll continue to do that. It just gives us optionality and size. When we have other guys who can guard the ball like we do, it's great to have him at the rim as well. He's one of the best rim protecting wings in the league, and that's something that we like to do, have him off the ball. So
We saw in Game 4 against the Lakers, and then on Saturday, and seemingly kind of sparks things or gets you guys back into games with some of these really tough threes. But what has the progression just been like of him not living and dying on those for the rest of the quarter after hitting a couple of them to get you guys back in it?
Yeah, I think it's been a recognition by him that they're pretty tight to him. They're pretty committed to not letting him get up a high volume amount of threes. He's doing a pretty good job of attacking there. I do think there are some more catch and shoot opportunities for him. And we talked about that today. So a lot of that's going to be reliant on our ball movement. We got to move the ball for him, and he can benefit. But there are, I think, some cleaner looks for him out there. He just has to be a little bit more ready to take them. So.
Coach, in what way will you know that your team's coming out with the proper sense of urgency and not having a potential letdown, knowing that the Warriors really would like to go back to Minnesota tied 2-2?
Yeah, well, for me, it's all about game plan execution. Are we locked into the small things that we need to do in the game plan? Obviously, we're going to have to put the work in. We know exactly what's coming from Golden State. So.
Hey, Chris, back here. A lot of times we'll see a guy get in the paint and Rudy's there and they will dribble it out or throw it out, not even try to challenge him. How much of his defensive impact doesn't show up on a stat sheet?
Yeah, a ton. It's always been the case with these elite rim protectors that deterrence is probably the biggest thing. That's changed a little bit in recent times. I think guys are going in there and taking on these guys because there are benefits to it, but making teams think twice about coming in there, and when they do come in there and just shutting down their ability to even get a shot off is huge. So.
Chris, you mentioned in Minneapolis how Draymond seems to be everywhere at once on defense, and you guys scored 40 in the first half and 62 in the second.
Yeah.
Obviously, much of that is you guys playing better, but how much the fact that he was off the court a lot with foul trouble, how much of a factor was that, did you think?
No doubt. I mean, this is a phenomenal defensive player, not just in the things that he does individually or in a one-on-one setting, but how he just kind of runs his whole team. I've long thought that it's tough to beat this team unless you can make him pay somehow for his activity. And there's no doubt that him being in foul trouble and off the floor certainly helped us.
Chris, the way you guys limited their 3-point attempts the first half and even for the entire game, was that a point of emphasis, or was it more the personnel they had, or a combination of those things? I mean, to be able to do that?
Yeah, I think, this team's, obviously Steph's not there, so it changes the dynamics quite a bit, but, the team still plays in a great rhythm with so much movement off ball. They're still hunting the same shots. We've all experienced the run of threes that they can put on the board in a hurry, feel like knockout punches at times. So anything you got to do to limit them getting those threes, certainly in a row, is really important to take away their momentum. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.